2024 is a big year for all monster fans and kaiju enthusiasts worldwide, as it marks the 70th anniversary of the Godzilla franchise, and Godzilla himself will be celebrating his 70th birthday in November. I would post this video on the 3rd of November because that's Godzilla Day, but I have something else planned for the occasion. However, in the meantime, there's this top 10 video. Now on first sight, Godzilla may appear to be of the same design, and while he is for the most part, with some exceptions, Godzilla has had a lot of depictions, depending on the theme of the film that he's in. He's been a representative of the atomic bomb, a force of nature, an animal defending his territory, a hero of the planet, a protector of mankind, a father raising a spoiled brat, a ticking doomsday time bomb, an evil vessel full of vengeful spirits, and one time a mountain-sized plant? You name it, but whatever the theme, Godzilla has been through a lot since his big debut back in 1954, and he has always been a combination between a Tyrannosaurus Rex, an Iguanodon, and a Stegosaurus. However, today or tonight, depending on what time it is when you're watching this video, as part of the upcoming 70th celebrations in November, I'm going to be talking about some certain incarnations of the King of the Monsters, and which ones I like the most. Some were easy picks and others it took a while. So without further ado, it's Dragonzilla 1991's top 10 favourite incarnations of Godzilla. Number 10. Godzilla 1955 / Gyakushi Goji. In my review of the Godzilla High Grade / Gachapon figures The Obscurities group, I said that the 55 Godzilla was either my 6th or 7th favourite incarnation of the King. And while I do like it, I wouldn't say that he's in that category. Gyakushi Goji is famous because he was the first Godzilla to battle another kaiju, who was none other than Anguirus, and the suit itself was even modified to be shipped over to America with the also modified Anguirus suit for the unmade US version of Godzilla Raids Again, which was going to be titled The Volcano Monsters. But both suits unfortunately never returned to Toho Studios, and have now sadly become lost to the mists of time. This has got to be one of the most creepiest depictions of Godzilla. In fact, it is so creepy that in recent years, this incarnation has been used in many online horror stories, such as the Summation trials. Overall, not a bad depiction of the character from a movie that's okay. Not perfect, but it's okay. However, the design is creepy nonetheless. Number 9. Godzilla -1 / Goji. This incarnation of the King was originally based on the Godzilla from the Godzilla the Ride, from Universal Japan. I believe that's the name of the theme park. Or Ride Goji, as I suspect he'll be called. Goji, better known as Godzilla -1, is first seen as a primitive Tyrannosaurus-like creature. This version of the character is known as Odo Island Godzilla. Forgive me if I butchered the name of that place. A few years later, he evolves and pursues a fishing boat, giving us this iconic image. And then he causes mayhem as usual in Tokyo. When this Godzilla breathes his atomic breath, his dorsal spines jut out, and his blast reflects the atomic explosion. Despite packing such a great punch, Godzilla 2023 is actually one of the shortest incarnations ever to be depicted, and because of his size, he has also, fun fact, become the subject of memes. Goji is the incarnation of Godzilla, aside from Titanus Godzilla from the Monsterverse, to have his own Roar, which is the modified Gojira Roar, and not a recycled Roar from any of the Millennium Godzillas in the current Reiwa era. By the way, to me at least, Godzilla -1 kind of reminds me of the Heisei Godzilla, but more up to date. Number 8. Godzilla 1973 / Megara Goji. Okay, I know that some people don't like this depiction of the Big G because of how adorably animated he looks, but you know what? He was my first Godzilla, not counting the 98 Zilla, because Godzilla vs. Megalon was the first actual Toho movie that I ever saw because my cousin owned it on VHS. Even though I do prefer it when the king is a destructive force of nature, and that's exactly how I would portray him if I made my own Godzilla film. However, nevertheless, I have a soft spot for the Megara Goji suit. Well, actually, Godzilla wasn't meant to be in the 1973 movie. It was only going to star Jet Jaguar and Megalon, but both Godzilla and Gigan were written into the script at the 11th hour. However, Megara Goji is very well known for giving Megalon the famous tail slide attack. 73 Godzilla would also appear in a couple of Zone Fighter episodes, where he would battle Gigan once again, as well as taking on King Ghidorah and other bizarre beasties that were made exclusively for that show only. This suit was also incomplete when rolling for the cameras, but would be altered for the remaining Shaw movies with Mechagodzilla and would be rechristened as Megaragorgi. Number 7. Heisei Godzilla. Possibly the most iconic depiction for Godzilla would be the Heisei incarnation from the mid-80s and early to mid-90s. In fact, it is so iconic that it is the first incarnation of the king that will come to mind as soon as you think of Godzilla, just like how 70s Grey Daleks are iconic classic Daleks from the Doctor Who franchise. This was the time when Godzilla went back to being a force of destruction again. However, for me at least, there are two versions of Heisei Godzilla that I like the most, and those would be 89 Biogorgi and 91 Giragorgi. Biogorgi is what I think as soon as I hear the word Heisei, and it's the Godzilla that you play as in Godzilla the game PS3 and PS4. And for Giragorgi, who I believe is a bulked up version of Biogorgi, well, I'm biased on him because he was 91 Godzilla and 1991 was the year I was born. I pretty much like all Heisei Godzillas, especially Burning Godzilla from Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Number 6. Godzilla 1968-72 / Shōshingeki Gorgi. I think I've really butchered that one. This incarnation of the king is one of the more popular Showa designs, and will be of many depictions that you'll think of when Showa Godzillas come to mind. By this point in the character's history, Godzilla was seen as a folks hero for kids, hence why you will often see him in this superhero victory pose. The 68 Godzilla, which looks like it was modelled after the Daisetsu Gorgi suit, debuted in Destroyer Monsters in 1968, and this would be the most used suit for the Showa period and was last used in the 12th entry of the series, 1972's Godzilla vs. Gigan, where in that picture, Godzilla was getting beat up by Gigan and King Ghidorah, as well as the Godzilla Tower, and because the harassing was so severe that caused the suit to fall apart, which quickly led to its eventual deterioration. So Shōshingeki Gorgi is the only incarnation to date to have the ability to speak to Anguirus. Number 5. Godzilla 2004 / Final Gorgi. Now this incarnation of the king is very well known in the community because it was the very last suit to go before the cameras, hence the name Final Gorgi. First debuted in 2004's Godzilla Final Wars, which was made to commemorate the franchise's 50th anniversary and to close the Millennium series. This Godzilla was created with a scrawny design because Final Wars was made to be like a modern-day Showa Godzilla movie, as he would battle with other monsters, ranging from Gigan and his past allies, those being Anguirus, Rodan and King Caesar, to Hedra and Ibra, and finally Monster X, who evolved into Kaiser Ghidorah. Final Gorgi is also well known for exterminating the tuna-eating Iguanazilla in Sydney, Australia down under. And despite having the appearance of an alligator on steroids, the 2004 Godzilla gained an honourable path on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for the premiere of Godzilla Final Wars, and in recent years for the past 3 Novembers that we've had since 2021, has started a series of live-action anniversary shorts battling Hedra, Gigan and Jaguar. By the way, to those who don't like the Final Gorgi design, well, this is what he was originally going to look like for the movie. So just be grateful that we ended with a more traditional looking Godzilla. Number 4. Godzilla 1964 / Gorgi. One of the most popular designs for the King of the Monsters is the 1964 Godzilla, better known as Gorgi. This incarnation sort of resembles the original 54 Gojira suit, but just minus the pointy ears and large canines. 64 Godzilla is also considered to be a fan favourite because this is what he looked like when he first met Mothra, and whenever Toho do a film where Godzilla goes to battle Mothra, they always make sure that he's at his meanest and at his best. Gorgi is also the most destructive, well, so are many others, but 64 Godzilla is one of the more powerful incarnations of the character. The suit itself would later be reused for the following film that would also premiere in 1964, which was Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, where he would encounter King Ghidorah for the first time, and he also took on Rodan as well, albeit with a brand new head. And a little fun fact, Gorgi was actually the very first Godzilla figure that I ever bought, not counting the Tremasters 98 Zilla Hatchling, because that's our real Godzilla, and I consider him to be the pride of the collection. Number 3. Godzilla 2001 / Jim K. Gorgi. Godzilla is a scary kaiju, no doubt about that. However, the most scariest depiction of the King of the Monsters is the GMK Goji from 2001's Godzilla, Mothra and King Ghidorah Giant Monsters All-Out Attack, or simply known as GMK for short. The first thing that you'll be quick to notice is that he lacks pupils, and that's because he is possessed by the vengeful spirits of those who lost their lives during World War II. He is also the toughest incarnation of the King by far, and easily overpowered the three Guardians, as poor Baragon found that out the hard way. He incinerated Mothra and even brought down former bad guy forced to become a Guardian against his will, Ghidorah. Also, the GMK Godzilla reminds me of the evil-looking statue of the Hindu goddess Kali from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and I would honestly love to see GMK Goji bow Kali, albeit the statue would have to come to life first, and then grow approximately 60 meters before taking on the King of the Monsters. The suit itself is also known as the Sokai Gika Goji. I've really butchered that one, I do apologise. However, on this channel, we all know him as Goji Kruger. Number 2. Gojira 1954 / Shodai Goji. Everybody knows this particular incarnation because, of course, this was the very first Godzilla, or Gojira as he's known in Japan. The original Gojira was a prehistoric reptile who was awoken by the atomic bomb, and even though he represented those nuclear explosions, Shodai Goji, while still maintaining the dinosaur appearance, like his successors, however he had a dragon's facial expression. Again, like his successors would. His skin appeared to be burnt. This was meant to be a reference to the burnt skins of victims who suffered during the atomic blasts. He was said to be a mythical sea dragon that feasted on young girls who were sent on a drifting raft as a sacrifice to appease the beast. But he made his way onto the island and quickly made his way to mainland Japan, where he caused mass destruction, which again was meant to be a reference to the atomic devastation. However, he was eventually defeated by the superweapon known as the Oxygen Destroyer. Shodai Goji may have originated from 1954, and while yes, that makes him a Showa Godzilla, however he has also turned up in other eras of the franchise, with the exceptions of the Monsterverse, the Polygon Trilogy, Godzilla Singular Point, and Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, etc. and so on. Okay, even though he technically is, but that's just the Godzilla 2000 suit being reused again. You know what I mean. 54 Gojira has had 2 replica suits of him made. One was built for 2002's Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla for a flashback scene, and a full-on replica suit was created for the short film Dream Challenge Godzilla. Being the original Godzilla, Shodai Goji is the most important incarnation of the King of the Monsters, as he was the first. And before I reveal number 1, here are some quick honourable mentions. Although it's mostly the 2014 Gara Goji model, but modified, I gotta say that I really do prefer the 2019 version of the Monsterverse Godzilla, or Titanus Godzilla as he's known in the series. Dori Goji has the more traditional leaf-shaped dorsal spines, possesses the Japanese Godzilla's roar while still maintaining his own, and was even the second incarnation to battle Kong since 1962. Shin Godzilla was a completely different take on the character, as he started off as a microscopic organism until evolving from a weird tadpole-like creature and then becoming a more traditional Godzilla. However, despite packing in quite a punch with his atomic breath, which not only blasted from his mouth but from his dorsal spines and his tail as well, this Godzilla is actually quite slow and is also in a lot of pain too. In my opinion, Godzilla doesn't really translate well as an anime, but I do think that Godzilla Ultima has a pretty decent design and is the sort of depiction that would be suitable for an anime. However, I do wish that they didn't pull a Shin Godzilla on us by giving him evolution stages and just bring back the actual characters that his forms were based on. On first sight, he does resemble Morsa Goji, but Daisenso Goji, better known as Godzilla 1966, is his own suit. However, this Godzilla is very well known for behaving like King Kong, because he was revived by lightning, he has an interest in a special lady friend, and he fights opponents that are more suitable for Kong, and that's simply because Ibra, Horror from the Deep, was originally going to star King Kong. In response to the 1998 Abomination, which was the Roman Derek TriStar Godzilla, Toho immediately brought the King of the Monsters back from hibernation, and despite looking a lot more ferocious compared to the 98 Zilla, who was an oversized iguana, Mira Goji, aka Godzilla 2000, is actually one of the shortest incarnations of the radioactive dinosaur. And now, my number one favourite incarnation of Godzilla is Godzilla 1962/King Goji. Of all the many depictions of Godzilla, King Goji is my favourite, and what makes him so iconic for me is that he is the first incarnation of the King of the Monsters to battle the 8th wonder of the world, King Kong. And if you're a subscriber to this channel, then you will all recognise him from starring in the Godzilla parody series that I make, Kaiju and Cryptids. Now, while most other incarnations of the Reptilian King have mostly been part dinosaur, part dragon, King Goji is not only part dinosaur, but he is also part lizard, possibly as a reference to the Tyrannosaurus from the original 1933 King Kong movie, even though we now clearly know that T-Rex wasn't really a lizard itself. You know what I mean. Godzilla 62 has quite the personality, because whenever Kong blundered or made a mistake, he would clap his hands in amusement. Interestingly, despite the fact that the suit itself was a light charcoal grey sort of colour, most merchandise of the 62 Godzilla depict him in green. Fun fact, in 1983, a replica of the King Goji suit was created for a short fan film, Wolfman vs. Godzilla. King Goji is certainly a fun design for the King of the Monsters, even though from the front he kinda does look like a drugged up version of Kermit the Frog. However, the side angles make up for it, and therefore he is my personal favourite incarnation of Godzilla. And that's it, folks. Those are my top 10 favourite incarnations for Godzilla. Like I said, some were easy picks, and others it took a while. Well, actually, the last 3 Godzillas I talked about were the most trickiest, because the whole King Goji is my number one favourite incarnation of the King. But in reality, for me at least, it can also be between Shodai Goji and GMK Goji. I know some folks are probably going to disagree with my picks, and will say that some certain incarnations should be higher than others, but this is my ranking, and it's just my opinion. I know that I didn't go into too much detail on each suit, well that's because other YouTubers, such as Goji Reviews, pretty much has you covered, especially when it comes to the history on each suit. In fact, just recently, Wikizilla uploaded a video on the 2001 GMK Godzilla that I highly recommend you check out. What are your top 10 favourite incarnations of Godzilla, and which of these depictions was your first viewing for the King of the Monsters? I've also done a top 10 video on some of my favourite characters from the Godzilla franchise, so if you wish to check that video out, the link's in the description below. This is Dragonzilla 1991 signing out. Take care and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.